Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So today we'll be studying from Srimad Bhagavatam, second canto. I'll just move this real quick. One moment. Hare Krishna. Krishna, 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 Krishna. Second canto, Srimad Bhagavatam, and reading from chapter number 1, the first step in God realization. And we will be reading from text number 27. From the word for word, Dve Januni Sutalam Vishvamurtehe Urudvayam Vitalam Cha Atalam Cha Mahitalam Tat Jaghanam Mahipate Nabhastalam Nabhi Saraha Girananti Dvejanuni Sutalang Vishvamurter Urudvayang Vitalang Chatalam Cha Mahitalam Tas Jaghanam Mahipate Nabhastalang Nabhisaro Grananti Dve Januni Sutalang Vishvamurter Urudvayang Vitalam Chatalang Cha Mahitalang Tas Jaghanam Mahipate Nabhastalang Nabhisaro Grananti Dvejanuni Sutalang Vishvamurter Urudravam Vitalam Chatalang Cha Mahitalang Tas Jaghanam Mahipate Nabhastalang Nabhisaro Grananti Dvejanuni Sutalang Vishvamurter
Urudvayam Vitalam Chatalam Cha
Urudrayang Vitalam Chatalam Cha
Mahitalam Tajaganani Mahitalepate
Mahipate
Bastalam Navi Sarogrananti
Nabhastalang Nabhisaro Grananti
Dvejanuni Sutalang Vishvamurter
Dvejanuni Sutalang Vishvamurter
Urudvayang Vitalang Chatalang Cha
Urudvayang Vitalam Chatalam Cha
Mahitalang Tas Jaganang Mahipate
Mahitalang Tas Jaganam Mahipate
Nabastalang Nabi Sarogrinanti
Nabhastalang Nabhisaro Grananti Dejanuni Sutalam Vishvamurte Dejanuni Sutalam Vishvamurte Urudvayam Vitalam Chatalam Cha Urudayam Vitalam Chatalam Cha.
Mahitalam Tajjaganam Mahipate.
Mahitalam Jaganam Mahipate.
Nabhastalam Navisaro Grananti.
Nabhastalam Nabhigaro Shoro Grananti. Dvijanuni Sutalam Vishvamurte. Dvijanuni Sutalam Vishvamurte. Urudayam Vitalam Chatalam Cha. Urudayam Vitalam Chatalam Cha. Mahitalam Tajaganam Mahipate. Mahitalam Tajaganam Mahipate. Nabhastalam Nabhisalokinanti. Nabhastalam Nabhiksaro Grananti.
Dvijanuni Sutalam Vishvamurte.
Dvijanuni Sutalam Vishvamurte.
Urudvayam Vitalam Chatalam Cha.
Urudayam Vitalam Chatalam Cha.
Mahitalam Tajjaganam Mahipate.
Mahitalam Jaganam Mahipate.
Nabhastalam Navisaro Grananti.
Nabhastalam Navisaro Grananti.
Dvejanuni Sutalam Vishvamurte.
Dvijanuni Sutalam Vishvamurte.
Urudvayam Vitalam Chatalam Cha.
Urudvayam Vitalam Chatalam Cha.
Mahitalam Tajjaganam Mahipate.
Mahitalam Jaganam Mahipate.
Nabhastalam Navisaro Grananti.
Nabhastanam Navisaro Grananti.
Dvijanuni Sutalam Vishvamurte.
Dvijanuni Sutalam Vishvamurte.
Urudvayam Vitalam Chatalam Cha.
Urudvayam Vitalam Chatalam Cha.
Mahitalam Tajaganam Mahipate.
Mahitalam Jaganam Mahipate.
Nabhastalam Nabhisaro Grinanti.
Nabhastalam Nabhisaro Grinanti.
Dvijanuni Sutalam Vishvamurte.
Dvijanuni Sutalam Vishvamurte.
Urudvayam Vitalam Chatalam Cha.
Urudvayam Vitalam Chatalam Cha.
Mahitalam Tajaganam Mahipate.
Mahitalam Jaganam Mahipate.
Nabhastalam Navisaro Grinanti.
Nabhastalam Navisaro Grananti. Are there any chanters online? The two Januni, two knees. Sutalam, the planetary system named Sutala. Vishvamurtehe, of the universal form. Urudvayam, the two thighs. Vitalam, the planetary system named Vitala. Cha, also. Atalam, the planets named Atala. Cha, and Mahitalam, the planetary system named Mahitala. Tat, of that. Jaghanam, the hips. Mahipate, O king. Nabhastalam, outer space. Nabhisaraha, the depression of the navel. Grananti, they take it so. Translation. The knees of the universal form are the planetary system of the name Sutala, and the two thighs are the Vitala and Atala planetary systems. The hips are Mahitala, and outer space is the depression of his navel. Text 28. Urastalang yotirani kamasya griva maharvatanam vajanosya tapovaratim viduradi pungsa satyam tu shirshani sahasrashirshana. Translation. The chest of the original personality of the gigantic form is the luminary planetary system. His neck is the Mahar planets. His mouth is the Janas planets, and his forehead is the Tapas planetary system. The topmost planetary system, known as Satyaloka, is the head of he who has 1,000 heads. Purport. The effulgent luminary planets, like the sun and the moon, are situated almost in the mid-space of the universe, and as such, they are to be known as the chest of the original gigantic form of the Lord. And above the luminary planets, called also the heavenly planets of the universal directorate demigods, are the Mahar, Janas, and Tapas planetary systems, and above all, the Satyaloka planetary system, where the chief directors of the modes of material nature reside, namely Vishnu, Brahma, and Shiva. This Vishnu is known as the Kshirodakashayi Vishnu, and he acts as the super soul in every living being. There are innumerable universes floating on the causal ocean, and in each of them, the representation of the Virat form of the Lord is there, along with innumerable suns, moons, heavenly demigods, Brahmas, Vishnus, and Shivas. All of them are situated in one part of the inconceivable potency of Lord Krishna, as stated in the Bhagavad Gita 10.42. So I'll read these two translations again. Dve januni sutalam vishwamurte uru dvayam vitalam chatalam cha mahitalam taj jaganam mahipate nabhastalam nabhi sarogrinanti. The knees of the universal form are the planetary system of the name Sutala, and the two thighs are the Vitala and Atala planetary systems. The hips are Mahitala, and outer space is the depression of his navel. Text 28. Urastalang Jyotiraniika masya griva mahar vadanam bhaijanosya tapovaratim vidur adi pungsa satyang tu shirshani sahasra shirshanaha. Translation. The chest of the original personality of the gigantic form is the luminary planetary system. His neck is the Mahar planets, his mouth is the Janas planets, and his forehead is the Tapas planetary system. The topmost planetary system, known as Satyaloka, is the head of he who has 1,000 heads. So, do you think you can bring me the... So, Prabhupada is mentioning that the luminary planets, the sun and the moon, are situated in the mid-place of the universe. So in each universe, there is this arrangement of planets, and there are uncountable universes which are floating in the causal ocean. So when we look at the Bhagavatam, canto number 1, first part, then we can, on the blue book, then we can see what is being described here. Yeah, you can get if you like. Yeah, we can show it somehow. And on this cover, you can see that there's the spiritual planet of Goloka Vrindavan where Krishna is residing. And yeah, it may be possible to show it from there. So there's the Goloka, which is the supreme topmost abode. that is the Paramgati, that is the supreme destination, is Goloka Vrindavan, where Krishna resides with his associates, including the cows and all his dearmost devotees. And then there's the Paravyoma, or the spiritual sky, which is all the blue, which is filled with innumerable spiritual planets where Vishnu resides in his different named forms, carrying different articles in his 4 different hands. Then there's a portion of that spiritual sky, which is the material sky. And in that place, the Lord glances, he casts his glance there and impregnates material nature with the spiritual living entities. He also himself enters into that place as the soul of the universe, as we've been discussing. So he enters first as Mahavishnu, and he lies down himself in that causal ocean. From his bodily pores, due to his breathing process, he exudes innumerable planets, innumerable spiritual universes, each of which he enters again as his second expansion, Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. And there he lies down on the Garbhodak ocean, which is filling half of the universe with his perspiration. Then from his navel, Garbhodakshaya Vishnu's navel, comes Lord Brahma, the first living being. The soul which enters into that body of Lord Brahma is the most pious of all the souls that are in that system. The Lord makes the arrangement, Daivanetrena. Some very special soul is allowed to take that body, and as the engineer for that material universe. Additionally, Kshirodakshaya Vishnu is residing in the Satyaloka, where there is the milk ocean, and he lies there with his consort, the goddess of fortune. And at that place, the demigods go and offer prayers called Purusha Shukta prayers in order to beseech Lord Vishnu to rescue the demigods when there is trouble. So each one of these universes where Lord Brahma is born from the navel of Garbhodakshaya Vishnu is its own complete unit with all these planets. And within each of these universes, the gigantic form of the original personality of Godhead, or this Virat form of the Lord, is there, along with innumerable planets and suns and stars and amazing things. So I'm just having a thought that scientists, they are bold enough to say there is no God, but they cannot even understand one insignificant universe in total. We can't even understand this earth planet, actually. So thank you for bringing the Bhagavad Gita. Let's read chapter 10, text 42. So chapter 10, text 42. Chapter 10 is named the opulence of the absolute. And in text 42, which is actually the end of the chapter, the very last the chapter, Krishna states, Atava bahunaitena kim jatena tavarjuna vishtabhyaham idam krishnam ekam shena stito jagat. Translation: but what need is there, Arjuna, for all this detailed knowledge? With a single fragment of myself, I pervade and support this entire universe. And the purport says, the Supreme Lord is represented throughout the entire material universes by his entering into all things as the super soul. Another name for that, which we learned from the first purport, was Kshirodakshaya Vishnu. Continuing, The Lord here tells Arjuna that there is no point in understanding how things exist in their separate opulence and grandeur. He should know that all things are existing due to Krishna's entering them as supersoul. From Brahma, the most gigantic entity, on down to the smallest ant, all are existing because the Lord has entered each and all and is sustaining them. Worship of demigods is discouraged herein because even the greatest demigods like Brahma and Shiva only represent part of the opulence of the Supreme Lord. He is the origin of everyone born, and no one is greater than him. He is samata, which means that no one is superior to him and that no one is equal to him. In the Vishnu mantra, it is said that one who considers the Supreme Lord Krishna in the same category with demigods, be they even Brahma or Shiva, becomes at once an atheist. If, however, one thoroughly studies the different descriptions of the opulences and expansions of Krishna's energy, then one can understand without any doubt the position of Lord Sri Krishna and can fix his mind in the worship of Krishna without deviation. The Lord is all-pervading by the expansion of his partial representation, the super soul who enters into everything that is. Pure devotees, therefore, concentrate their minds in Krishna consciousness in full devotional service. Therefore, they are always situated in the transcendental position. Devotional service and worship of Krishna are very clearly indicated in this chapter in verses 8 to 11. That is the way of pure devotional service. How one can attain the highest devotional perfection of association with the Supreme Personality of Godhead has been thoroughly explained in this chapter. So this chapter, Opulence of the Absolute, Krishna, early on, he's describing that everything comes from me, material and spiritual worlds. That's 10:8. He says that all the devotees, they love to chant about me. That's what they do, and they're surrendered to me. They love to talk about me amongst themselves, and their thoughts are always dwelling in Krishna. 10, Krishna says that those who are constantly devoted and worshiping with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. And 11, out of compassion for them, I dwelling within their hearts, destroy with the shining lamp of knowledge the darkness born of ignorance. Then the rest of the chapter, Krishna is describing so many wonderful things in this material manifestation, which are to be taken as representations or reminders of Krishna. So we are receiving other set here in the Srimad Bhagavatam, all these different planets, the forehead, the Tapas planet, there's so many great sages who are doing austerities. That is the Lord's forehead. The Satyaloka is the head of the one who has 1,000 heads. So we're hearing all these descriptions of material things within the universe, but Krishna states, what is the point of all this? It's me, Krishna. I am behind it, and my opulence is pervading. At the same time, this is important for us as we've been speaking, that we are untrained to see the Lord. So when we hear these things, then we can move up to that transcendental. So those are some thoughts. Thank you so much, devotees. Maybe we can have some discussion. Yes, Mridanga Prabhu.
In one purport, or more than one purport, Srila Prabhupada mentions that the universal form is somewhat of an imaginary form, just to help people meditate on the Lord within the external manifestation. So, is there an actual form in each universe, a universal form, like, or is it just that imagination? It's being described like, so that to help yogis meditate on the Lord through his external energy.
Yes, so the Lord's form is completely spiritual, but so this form of the whole universe taken as a whole is made up of all these material elements. So it's a conception which is meant to elevate one to recognizing the personality behind that. So a person has body, arms, legs, chest, and all that. And the universe doesn't actually look like a body. It actually looks more like a chandelier. That's actually described, and we can see nice videos and things of that. But when we conceptualize universe in relation to the two-handed form of Krishna, then we remind ourselves of that form. But this form doesn't eternally exist as Krishna's other forms are always eternally existing. Like the form of Krishna, Shama Sundar, he's a blackish boy, no older than 16 or 20, and he has wonderfully long hair, which is black, and he plays the flute, and he wears a peacock feather in his hair. And this eternal form is existing eternally in the spiritual world, whereas this universal form is just manifest along with the creation and dissolution of the material universe. Actually, in chapter 8 of Bhagavad Gita, I was just checking out this chapter. Chapter 8 is known as Attaining the Supreme. And in this chapter, Krishna describes first about the transference of or the receiving a new body based on our consciousness at the time of death. Then he's reminding us that if we connect with him and we're conscious of him, then we can go to him. So chapter 8, text number 16 says that from the highest planet in the mature world down to the lowest, all the places of misery or in repeated birth and death take place. But one who attains to Mayabodho, son of Kunti, never takes birth again. 17. By human calculation, 1,000 ages together is the duration of Brahma's one day, and such also is the duration of his night. And Prabhupada, in this purport, he explains that the material universe has a duration which is limited, and it's manifested in cycles of kalpas, which are one day of Brahma. And one day of Brahma consists of 1,000 cycles of 4 yugas: Swatya, Treta, Dwapara, and Kali, which are divisions, or which are like Satya Yuga has 4 lengths of the Kali Yuga, and Treta has 3, and Dwapara has 2, and Kali has 1. One Kali Yuga lasts 432,000 years. Anyway, so all persons, even Brahma, in this material universe are subject to dissolution, and they're not free from birth, death, and old age. So 100 years of Brahma is equal, by earth calculations, 311 trillion and 40 million earth years. So then text 18, Krishna describes, when Brahma's day is manifest, this multitude of living entities comes into being, and at the arrival of Brahma's day, they are all annihilated. And then 19, again and again the day comes, and this host of beings is active. And again the night falls, O Partha, and they are helplessly dissolved. Then he says, text 20, this is also a very nice verse, which actually describes the spiritual world. Only not so much in Bhagavad Gita is given about this. This verse is specifically referencing that place. Parastasmat tu bhavo nyo vyakto vyaktat sanatanaha yassa sarveshu bhuteshu nashyatsu navinashyati. Translation: yet there is another nature which is eternal and is transcendental to this manifested and unmanifested matter. It is supreme and is never annihilated. When all in this world is annihilated, that part remains as it is. Purport: Krishna's superior spiritual energy is transcendental and eternal. It is beyond all the changes of material nature, which is manifest and annihilated during the days and nights of Brahma. Krishna's superior energy is completely opposite in quality to material nature. Superior and inferior nature are explained in the 7th chapter. So that's also there. That from chapter 7, text 4. Bhumirapo nalovayu kangmano buddhirevacha ahankara iti yangme pina prakritirashtadha. That earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego. Altogether, these 8 comprise my separated material energies. Then he says, chapter 7, text 5, aparayam mitas tvanyam prakritim vidime param jiva bhutam mahabaho yedam daryate jagat. Yet there is another nature which is beyond or superior to this inferior nature, which are all the living entities. And they're actually struggling with material energy, and they're sustaining the universe. So this is very interesting. This whole material cosmic manifestation, including this universal form or this conception of the universal form, is maintained because we have material desires which are able to be fulfilled there in the spiritual world. In the spiritual world, persons are also interested in form, but they're interested in the supreme transcendental form of Lord Sri Krishna. And if we want to control the eyes, then we have to only see Krishna's form. This universal form is the first step towards that. Actually, at a stage, we will be able to see the super soul everywhere. And even beyond that, see the two-headed form of Shyamasundar, of Krishna, because the pulp of love has smeared the eyes. Those are some thoughts. Radha Stali Mataji.
Hare Krishna. I was wondering what happens to the holy places at the time of annihilation, like Vrindavan and other holy places around the world.
Yeah, the holy places are actually imported from the spiritual world. They're not made of matter. And actually, it's stated that Lord Chaitanya, he will advent himself in Goloka. He will advent himself in Goloka Vrindavan, which is situated in Navadvip. So this Navadvip is Goloka Vrindavan, actually. And these two places, and many other holy places, especially these two, are eternal tracts of land which remain even at the dissolution. And there's one pastime where there's a sage. I get his name confused a little bit. It starts with an M, but I'm not sure what it was. And the sage basically is alive, and there's massive torrential rain and flooding and fires and all of this, and he survives and finds shelter on one of these tracts of land. Markandeya Rishi? Okay, yes. So I think also this may be described in one of these purports here. Yes, let me see. Yes, okay. The very next text, chapter 8, text 21. That supreme abode is called unmanifested and infallible. And it is the supreme destination. When one goes there, he never comes back. That is my supreme abode. So Krishna suggested that they're never annihilated. Nashatsu navinashiti, never annihilated. In the purport to text 21, Prabhupada describes the spiritual planets as well as Krishna's eternal form. And he mentions that in the Gita, Lord Krishna gives only a small hint of his personal abode, Goloka Vrindavan, which is the supermost planet in the spiritual kingdom. A vivid description is given in the Brahma Samhita. Vedic literature states that there is nothing superior to the abode of the Supreme Godhead, and that abode is the ultimate destination. When one attains to it, he never returns to the material world. Krishna's supreme abode and Krishna himself are non-different, being of the same quality. On this earth, Vrindavan, 90 miles southeast of Delhi, is a replica of that supreme Goloka Vrindavan located in the spiritual sky. When Krishna descended on this earth, he sported on that particular tract of land known as Vrindavan in the district of Mathura, India. So there's more to research there, but that's what I got. Yes.
Hare Krishna. I'm sorry, I have one more question. It's just burning. Is it possible for every single living entity to be void of material desires? Like, is it possible for every single one of us to just be in the spiritual world and there not be this universal form of the Lord? Sorry if that doesn't make sense, but
Well, yes, that is possible, and that's actually the Lord's desire, but he always gives us free will. So some souls may just not want to be with Krishna, and therefore they stay in the material worlds in various positions. Yadis Sada Sad Yoni Janmasu. They're situated in the material energy, and they're meeting with different species of life. So it is possible. There was one great saint, Vasudev Datta, and I forgot exactly how his name is pronounced, maybe Vasudev Datta. And he prayed that he take all the sins for all the living entities in the universe. So that's just one universe out of countless universes. But he prayed like that. And Lord Chaitanya said, by your desire, they're already liberated. I already completely liberated them. And the example is given that if the entire universe reforms themselves and develops a service attitude towards Krishna, they all go back to the spiritual world, never to return to this material world, then Krishna doesn't consider it lost in the slightest, just like a mustard seed falling out of the bag or the basket of a salesman. He may have millions of mustard seeds and he doesn't mind. But at the same time, there's so many living entities which are actually have illicit desires that automatically the universe is filled again with souls who want to live contrary to the Lord. So we work for this because this is the Lord's desire. And we work to bring knowledge of Krishna to everyone and help them fan the spark of devotion. But ultimately, everyone has their free will, and even Krishna respects that. So those are just some more thoughts. Okay. Please pardon me for going over, devotees. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.